Hey, everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And today, the nominees were announced for the class of 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And of course, as expected, the internet is going crazy.
And yelling. We knew that was coming, right?
And screaming. Of course, yes, we knew that was coming. Everybody, of course, it's the same old arguments. Why is this person in there and not that person? Why is the person I don't like nominated and not the person that I do like? And how does that person qualify as rock and roll?
Right.
And I think, these questions we'll probably discuss, maybe not in this video, but maybe in a later video. We'll have a discussion, especially the whole, should this be called rock and roll? Why is it called Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if we allow someone whose genre is not rock and roll? And this has happened in the past, of course, as we all know. But maybe we should discuss it at greater length at some point. But right now, we just want to briefly go over the nominees, go over a few favorites. But first, we want to talk about two things: how the voting is done and how you become eligible. I think it's important because I get the feeling from past times that we've done these videos that a lot of people don't realize what goes on with this. And I think people have certain misconceptions. Right. And I used to be a voting member of the Grammys, although it was ages ago. It seems like a lifetime ago when I was a voting member. And everybody's perception of who voted on the Grammys was very different from the reality of how it was done. So let's talk about this first. The Rock Hall inductees are decided upon by a body of more than 1,000 artists, industry members, and historians. Now, industry members, that could be, everybody from record label people to, I guess, maybe concert promoters, journalists, of course, they might be part of the historians too.
Yeah.
The historians are part of it also. Fans have the opportunity to contribute to the selection process by voting every day at vote.rockhall.com or at the museum in Cleveland. Now, one thing I don't know is, I'm assuming, one time I thought that the fans voting was only for like a special category like fan vote category, but it sounds to me like the fan voting is counted in the overall voting.
It's counted in the overall. I think what it does is it basically, I think it serves, and I could be wrong, but I think the votes from the fans, it basically becomes like a voting member. I think it basically like just another voting member to the mix, but I could be wrong. And maybe somebody out there that perhaps is a voting member or knows a voting, maybe they can, in the comments, can tell specifically. But in reading and the press releases I've received over the years, it wasn't that clear to me. I know it does count. So if you feel really passionate about some of these artists, you definitely want to go online to that website you just referenced and you want to vote. And I know I've done that in the past as well.
And that does democratize the process a whole lot more than the Grammys.
Exactly.
Having been a voting member of the Grammys, that definitely democratizes it a whole lot more. So I would definitely encourage people to take advantage of that, especially if you have grievances about it and you feel like it's not right, vote then. One of the reasons I became a voting member of the Grammy Awards was because I thought, that the best way to affect change was from within. And but that's a whole other story. Won't get into that. But anyways, though, out of all the nominees, between 5 and 7 artists who received the most votes will be tallied, and then ultimately, decided for induction in the class of 2022. Yeah. So that's the voting part of it. Right. Robert, you want to talk about just eligibility?
Yeah. So because I know when I posted something on my blog, somebody said, well, how is this done? Well, you have to have released your first commercial recording at least 25 years prior. So somebody that just came up a few years ago wouldn't yet be eligible. You have to have been around for at least a quarter of a century. So those are the names that you're seeing pop up here. So this year, for example, Beck, who we see, his first recording was in the 90s and the early 90s. So now he's on there. He's eligible. Some other people that you see may have been already eligible, but maybe it's been 30 years, but they're finally getting on there. But at the minimum, you have to have that 25-year mark in terms of that span of time has to have passed.
Which I think is a good idea. I really do. That, I mean, when Rolling Stone did their lists recently, when they updated their list for, best albums, best songs, there were people who were like in the top 10 or top 15 or 20 or 50 even, that their albums were relatively new.
Yeah.
And, a number of, when I posted that video, there were people, commenters who said, these might be good albums, but they haven't been around long enough to be making the top 50 or the top 25 or the top 10. Time has to decide if these are classics. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Very strongly. I agree that time is the true indicator of if something really holds up and if it's significant. I mean, and I think as we've talked about, some of the artists that we're probably excited to see might be personal favorites, but then when we come back, either today or another episode, we might say objectively, hey, I love that artist's music. It means something to me, but is it really culturally significant enough, or does it really belong here? And that's something hopefully all the judges are thinking about when they cast their votes too.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do members who do like, for instance, artists who have previously been inducted, do they get to vote? I wonder.
My understanding is they probably do, because they're officially inducted. So I would think that they would, but that's a really good question. I thought I had heard that somewhere, but I didn't see it in any of the coverage that I saw out there today. But like you said, they talk about industry insiders and historians and that kind of thing. But I think some artists are probably voting members. I would think so.
Artists. It does say that some of them are artists. So I'm assuming that means that they're Rock Hall inductees, they get to vote. Yeah. So
like, if Paul McCartney and Bruce Springsteen want to cast a vote, they're probably not going to say no.
Yeah. And and hopefully they'll vote for me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, hopefully.
Exactly. They should. Yeah, they definitely should, TJ. That's important.
After all the money I've spent on their records.
Exactly.
Anyways.
Exactly. Well, should we share a little bit about who's on the list?
Yeah. Do we want to just run? Let's just run down the list first.
Okay.
And talk about how many times whether it's their first time, their fourth time, their fifth time. Rage Against the Machine. This is their fourth time without getting inducted. Judas Priest, third time. New York Dolls, third time. Pat Benatar, second time. The MC5, sixth time. Out of every artist on this list, they have missed the boat the most.
And I believe they go, and they're historically significant. I think that's why they keep being put back on the list. Yeah, but I'll let you keep going.
They're historically significant. Eminem, first time. Beck, first time. Kate Bush, it's her third. Devo, it's their third. Duran Duran, first time. Eurythmics, second time. I remember the first time too. Fela Kuti, second time. I remember his first time being announced. Also, we talked about it. Dolly Parton, first time. Although she's been around a while.
Yeah.
But it's her first time.
Yeah, amazing.
Carly Simon, first time. A Tribe Called Quest, first time. Dionne Warwick, second time. So those are the nominees. Are there any surprises for you? Any favorites? Anybody that you want to just immediately bring up?
Let's talk about favorites, because I don't know if I would go as far as saying surprises, because we have been seeing this mix of like R&B, hip hop, pop. We're seeing other styles.
Country.
Country, definitely with Dolly Parton, a country artist. So that doesn't really surprise me so much. But I was really excited to see Beck on the list, and also Duran Duran on the list. I mean, those are two personal favorites. I've seen both those artists a number of times and thought that both are very influential. And I think we see that in kind of how other artists that have praised him and kind of tried to carry their mantle a little bit. So I was really excited by those two names. And those are the two that jump out at me right now.
Sure.
Although definitely not the only good artists on the list.
Oh no, by no means. For me, the first timers that I'm most excited about, and we're just talking first timers here. Of course, like you, Beck. You know, Beck has been a very influential music artist to me. You know, Beck has in many ways been one of those artists who's shown me that pop music can be anything. You know, we'll talk about that more later. So I'm really glad to see him there as a first timer. Beyond that, the rest of them, I'm good for them. I'm glad to see that they got a nomination. There are probably a couple that I don't think belong there. There's a couple else on this list that I don't think belong there, but we'll talk more about that later, I guess.
Yeah.
But I would say the one that I'm most glad to see for a first timer is Beck.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with you if it was between Beck and Duran Duran. I mean, Beck is such a maybe he hasn't had as many huge hits as some of the other artists on there, but you and I both know he's such an influential and such a great artist that can basically do any genre. He's done amazing Americana albums. He's done hip hop, electronica. You know,
pop, rock, dance.
The guy can. It's so amazing.
And oddball stuff too.
Yeah, just Our Damage. The guy can do anything.
Yeah.
And do it well.
Yeah.
And authentically. He's a rare artist. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. As I look at them all here, this is probably going to shock a few people. I would say out of the other first timers, maybe Eminem would come in my second. Actually, not that I dislike Duran Duran. Yeah. I don't dislike Duran Duran or any of the other first timers. I don't dislike any of them. But yeah, I would actually say Eminem, which I know is going to draw some wrath because he's technically not rock,
right,
or pop.
Right.
He's hip hop. But yeah, but I would say. But
he won't
Eminem.
If he gets in, he won't be the first hip hop artist. So once you kind of open that door, you can't really shut it again. You have
once you open it, you can't shut it.
Yeah, you can't shut it.
Yeah. And I think, and I only own his first 3 albums, but I think they're all real. I think they're really strong first 3 albums. I've never listened beyond that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, though, do you want to make? But those are for the first timers. Do you want to comment on anyone else at this point? Should we comment on anyone else?
I don't know if I want to. The other personal favorite, and I know they're a returning nominee, is I just love Devo, and I think that they deserve to get. And I can't tell you why I have such strong feelings. I saw the band only once at Coachella one year. They were fantastic, but I just think that they're so different, and they just. I think when you break ground like a Beck or like a Devo, that should count for in a big way. It's like, let's say we're talking about a baseball Hall of Fame. Let's say somebody comes out and let's say Shohei Ohtani, maybe injuries cut him short, but he's such an amazing player as a defensive player and offensive player that it's something unique. And that to me is something like, totally apples and oranges with music. But somebody like Devo was so different. They're trying to almost like deconstruct rock and pop music and put it down to this really basic level. And I thought that's really exciting, kind of like what the B-52s did. Just a really, exciting group that kind of just said, hey, we're going to throw out the mold and we're going to just do something different. And I was happy to see them back on the ballots this year for consideration.
You and I are really on the same wavelength right now today. Because I'm feeling, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. In fact, I've kind of been doing some early research on a video I want to make about Devo, because like you, I think they deconstructed rock and roll in a way that few other musicians, artists, bands have. And it's something I'm going to talk about more in depth later. But yeah, I'm definitely on the same wavelength with you about that. But at the same time,
and TJ, right. I want to correct myself. It's funny. I said I'd only seen him once. Actually, I take that back. I had seen him headline another like alternative rock bill, I think many years ago. And so I have seen Devo twice. So I think more frequently about the Coachella show because it was such an interesting set. But when they headlined, when I saw them earlier in Anaheim, I think it was about maybe 12, 13 years ago, they were fantastic. But beyond just how they made me feel as a concert goer, I just think when I listen to their music on recordings, it's so significant. So I think that's that to me is what seals the deal, why they should be in there.
Okay, well said. One thing though that I would bring up is that there are artists who have reputations also for being trailblazers, whose music I honestly can say I'm not as familiar as I should be. I know their reputation more than I know their music, like the MC5. I've read a lot about their contributions, them being groundbreakers, trailblazers, and oftentimes trailblazers are the ones who end up with arrows by the side of the road, and other people build off their trailblazing.
Right.
And so one of the reasons why we said we want to come back, not talk about everybody today and try to talk, we want to take some time to listen to some of the people that we may not be as familiar with. I want to take some time to listen to the MC5. So when we come back
and give it some more thought, and exactly, because I'm thinking some of the other, like Kate Bush, I'm somewhat familiar with her. I think she's an amazing artist, but I just don't know if she's had, I believe in Europe, she's had quite a incredible reach and influence. But we're jaded because we're here in the States, so we're perhaps not getting some of the as much exposure to maybe some artists that are from the UK or from Ireland or something like that. So that's piling on what you just said. I think we need to spend a little more time, give it some thought, maybe go back and listen to some of these artists, and then we can come back and do a more in-depth episode about all, looking at all the nominees and how we each feel about it.
Absolutely. And I've had more exposure to Kate Bush than you, but that's because Superfan is a huge Kate Bush fan and has all her albums.
Okay.
So yeah, I've had more exposure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just remember, I remember her from a friend of mine had a video compilation, so I used to watch it. But of course you're hearing her music and yeah, fantastic. Almost like a female Peter Gabriel for that era. Just very, very dynamic, or like in the vein of like a David Bowie, very theatrical, elements in her music, but just very interesting. And I could see how she would be very influential. So I look forward to us coming back, and this is kind of just a quick preview because they just announced the nominees today, but I think we'll have more to say when we come back.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I'm going to be trying to figure out what albums I should be listening to by A Tribe Called Quest, since I've never heard anything by them. I'll recommend a few Eminem albums for you, Robert.
Okay, that sounds good. I probably need that. Yeah.
And if anybody wants to let me know where to start with the MC5, please leave a comment on that. Same for Fela Kuti. Read a lot about him, but haven't heard that much. So need to go do a little research here. But yeah, we're gonna come back and talk about this more. But everybody, share with us your thoughts of the first timers. Who are you the most excited to see? Who do you think it's high time they be inducted? Is there anybody not on this list that you think, damn it, needs to be on? And of course, we know some of you are very angry because your favorite person because if your favorite person wasn't nominated and your least favorite person was. So, but you can certainly rant about that if you want. And at any rate, though, great. I'm going to look forward to us getting back together, hopefully soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
We're going to discuss these nominees in more detail. So please stay tuned for that. And the best way to stay tuned for that is to click subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And of course, also click like. If you enjoy what we do here, please click like so that the YouTube algorithm recognizes us. And real quick, I want to thank the mighty, powerful patron supporters who are helping us to make more videos more often. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR the original and make a donation. You can also, if you can't make a regular monthly donation, you can just make a single donation. At any rate, though, everybody, let us know what you think. This is just a quick little initial rundown video. We wanted to give you some details here, and we'll look forward to talking to you about this in the future. And good to see you, Robert.
Good to see you, TJ.
Let's make some more videos soon. Beyond the follow-up to this one, let's make some more videos soon. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We hope you all stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.